Hey guys, okay, working on this 1998 Yamaha Big Bear 4x4 350. Got a starting issue, so I'm just going to go through a little bit of diagnosis to talk about the starter solenoid and the starter, just so you can isolate which one of the two might be causing you problems. But this one basically got the key on here, push the starter, you can hear the solenoid activating, so that's a good thing. That doesn't always mean the solenoid is actually working though. But we know we're getting power to the solenoid, so I'll explain that in a sec. And then the starter's right there. So we'll go through diagnosis, and just so we can isolate the starter as the problem. So we'll start at the solenoid here. Okay, so first thing when you're diagnosing any electrical problems, just want to check, make sure we have good voltage at the battery. This is a new battery we just put in, so I know it's good, but in case you're unsure, you just take your multimeter, put it on volts DC, go on to the positive, negative here. Anything about 12.8 to 13.2 is a charged battery. If you're below 12.5, it's technically discharged. So you probably want to charge it up or replace your battery. So that's step one. And then on the Big Bear, this is the starter solenoid right here. So it's a really simple type solenoid. So it has two inputs right here, the blue wire and the red wire. And basically the way that works is when you press the starter, so I'll press the starter, you can hear that clicking. And what that does is the blue and red wire activates a coil inside of the starter solenoid and mechanically closes a switch between these two posts here, which allows the high current to flow from the battery directly to the starter. So this wire right here is going to the starter, and this wire here is coming from the battery. And then these two activate the coil to make the connection. So a real quick and kind of dirty way of checking is just putting a piece of metal between these two posts and seeing if the starter will activate, because basically you're just physically making that connection yourself instead of allowing the switch to do it, and we're getting nothing. So that's a pretty good indication that there's nothing wrong with the starter solenoid, but we'll do a couple little diagnostic tests right now just so you can know for sure, or if you have this out of the vehicle, you can test it as well. So the first test for the coil, if it's out of the vehicle, we already know that the electromechanical switch works because we just tried it with the starter. But if this is out of the vehicle, you can test the resistance on the coil. So basically set your multimeter to ohms. So right now we got open line, so they're not touching. If you put them on these two leads going into the coil here, we should get a resistance of about 4 ohms, 4 to 5 ohms. And you want some resistance there because you got to keep in mind when you're connecting these two wires, you're connecting them to a really long coil. So that's why there should be some resistance on it. If you're not getting any resistance, there we go, we got 4.2 ohms. So that means that this, the actual coil side of this relay here is good. So we'll connect that back together. If you had an open line or very low resistance, there's probably something wrong with the coil. So you're probably going to want to replace the relay. And then the next thing you can check is the two main terminals that are making the connection to the starter. So if you put them across right there, you'll get open line because they're not connected. And then I'm going to activate the starter with them connected here. And you should see a very low resistance reading. I'm guessing it'll be around 0.1, 0.2 ohms. 0 ohms. Oh, 0.1 ohms. So that's good. So we got a good connection between the terminals. So we know that the coil is working, or the solenoid is working. And the last thing you want to check is obviously to make sure this wire going to the starter is good. Okay, so we're looking at the starter here now. I'm on the left-hand side of the vehicle looking at the starter. There's the wire. I got the little rubber cap off it. I'll try to get a little closer, get a little bit of light here. You can see that stud right there. That's basically directly connected to the solenoid. So when you apply, when you push the starter, it applies 12 volt power to that stud. So the best way to check the wire is literally just to jump the starter. So by that I just mean, and I've done this, I'm not going to waste your time, but basically put a booster cable like this onto that stud and connect it directly to your battery. And if the starter works, it's not the starter, it's something else. But in my case, the starter wasn't working. And what I'll do is I'm gonna actually take this starter out to show you guys. When I get it out on the bench, we'll do the same thing and you'll see that the starter doesn't work. I'll connect it directly to a 12-volt battery. So let's get to removing the starter. Okay, so to remove the starter, you got 2 bolts. One's behind this little hose here, right there. It's 8mm, and then 8mm one there, and then 10mm for the wire coming from the solenoid. So we'll get the solenoid wire first. Just using this 10mm open end wrench here to hopefully get on it. It's just it's fairly simple, but it's just tight. Okay, so we'll just lift that off and out of the way. I'll put you guys on the other side there so you can see what I'm doing. You can't get in from that side, but you can see it. I think you pretty well have to work from the left-hand side of the vehicle. Okay, and then I'm just going to push the starter towards the camera, towards the right-hand side of the vehicle, and then lift it. And I'll bring you over here just to show you what that looks like. And then you should be able to get it out of here. No, we're good. Go through here. And there it is. So let's do a quick test on that. Okay, so I got the starter out here, and I'm just going to connect these jumper cables to my battery. Make sure they're not touching on the other end there. Positive on positive, negative on negative, obviously on the battery. And then just connect this to anywhere on the housing. And then touch the positive terminal. You might have to hold on to it just in case it goes. And we got nothing. So likely it's a starter. If you tap it, yeah, it goes, which means the brushes are starting to wear out. But, oh, there it goes there. But you shouldn't have to tap it to make it work. It's a sort of a temporary fix. If you're in a bind and you need to get it to work, tapping it will make it go. But let's say the solenoid was working, which it is. It makes the connection. Nothing happens. If you tap it, it goes, but it's on its way out. And obviously you don't want to be tapping your starter every time you want it to start. Okay, we got a new starter here, Kimpax brand, 230308, in case anyone's wondering. So it's got a little O-ring on it there, keeps the water out. I'm just going to put a little bit of this O-ring lube. I've had this for years. On anything that has an O-ring, I put this on first, just to make it go in there easier. Okay.